All right, everyone. Welcome to Rhythm and Roads podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Jacob. We have a very special guest. We have Rafal Zielinski, Canadian filmmaker, film director, and producer. Welcome, sir.
Hey, welcome. Pleasure to be here and bring back all these cool memories of shooting this weird, strange, high school, scary movie called Hangman's Curse.
Yes, this podcast is based on this new film that I came across about a year ago. It's not that new, but new to me. Hangman's Curse, really good film. I actually liked it a lot. I thought it's a faith-based film on the author Frank Pradetti, and so I'm with the director of the film from Hangman's Curse. So welcome, sir.
Yes, welcome. Well, I hadn't seen the film since I finished shooting it. In fact, I missed the premieres. I never had a chance to even see it on the big screen because I was out of town. So you forced me to watch it. So I saw it actually one day ago, and I really liked it. I was really surprised. I said, "My God, did I do this? Did I make this film?" I don't even remember shooting some of it. And I think it's because, when I shoot, I am almost like in a trance. I'm completely immersed in the film, and like everything disappears, and I'm just so focused that in the end, somehow it just like as if it never happened.
Interesting.
It's weird. It's weird. It's strange.
So I want to get to know you a bit. So you're from Canada?
Yes. Well, actually, I was born in Poland.
Oh, in Poland.
In Poland,
wow.
Yeah, which is actually very much a Roman Catholic country with pockets of Jewish populations.
Okay.
So it has a very interesting dual type of experience and a lot of dark, sad history. So so I was born in Poland. I left when I was 7 years old, and my father got a Fulbright scholarship because he was a very prominent, very famous engineer who rebuilt all of Poland like in a couple of years after it was completely destroyed.
Wow.
Poland, Warsaw, and a lot of the cities look like Gaza looks today, completely demolished.
Wow.
So he had to invent a system that could be where you could rebuild very fast, and it was a prefabricated concrete system. He was the inventor. So they would create these huge girders like 100 feet long, 200 feet long, with reinforced concrete, or panels that were like 10, 20, 30 feet high, and with cranes they could erect apartment buildings, factories, bridges, anything.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah, so he was very famous. He got a lot of gold medals, and in the communist times it was a very rare occurrence where the Fulbright scholarship arranged an exchange where an American professional could come to Poland and vice versa. And so my father came to the University of North Carolina, and he spent 2 years there. And then, we never imagined we would get out of Poland because, they would never, if my mother and me and my sister left, they would know he would defect and never come back.
Okay.
But my mother was a contrarian, so she met with the Polish authorities, and she says, "Listen, I know you will never ever let me get out because you know that I'm not going to come back. So don't even try. I won't even try asking. But I would love to see my husband."
Wow.
And I don't know what happened. It was like a miracle, and she got the visa.
Really?
It was really weird.
Wow.
So there we were arriving in New York and North Carolina.
Okay.
And it was like a total culture shock. It was a little bit like Hangman's Curse. I was like an outsider. I mean, I didn't know the English. I didn't know anything. I was just suddenly thrown into an all-American high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was like a terrifying,
I bet. Yeah.
very horrifying experience.
Very.
Very fearful. And then the story goes on, and we eventually lived in India, in Middle East, in Egypt. We ended up in Canada.
Wow.
But I went to university at MIT where I studied film.
Oh wow, you went to MIT?
Yeah, I studied art and technology. I had this, I was going to study, I was in England and I was going to study art and sculpture. And I got into a lot of really good art schools in London. But I had this sort of inkling that, the future of art lied in technology.
Yeah.
Like everything, like, visual, film, photography, music, everything was... And the word digital didn't exist. I mean, computers didn't even hardly exist.
Wow.
So I wrote this manifesto. I want to go to MIT because I see the future of art in technology.
That's
I'm
awesome.
an artist, but I want to study technology.
That's awesome.
And I don't know, they thought I was a total freak, but they let me in on that essay.
That's great.
Because they thought I had a vision, and I did actually, because
you had a
it
vision.
all turned out true. But the computers were so primitive and so frustrating.
Yeah.
Like literally you had to punch cards to do a piece of animation or an electronic piece of music or something. I just gave up, and there was a very good film department.
Wow,
and
okay.
I studied film.
Is that
And I always had done
Yeah.
film, because we were traveling so much. My father was with the Ford Foundation, where he ended up.
Oh, okay.
Building houses for poor countries, for poor people in India, Middle East, Asia. So we're always traveling, and I was always filming.
Wow,
So that's how I picked up the whole film bug. Because from the age of 7 or 8, I had a Super 8 camera, and I was basically, the camera was my experience of the world. So through doing hundreds and hundreds of hours of Super 8 films, I just fell in love with
just
film.
fell
I was
with the craft. Okay.
totally addicted to it, and now 25 films later, here I am. And I just want to say that out of those 25 films, only about 6 of them were movies that I really wanted to make, I was passionate about.
Oh, really? Okay.
The other ones were just jobs,
Okay.
and a lot of them were jobs I had no interest in doing.
Really? Okay.
But I thought there was a way to break into Hollywood.
Okay.
So I did a lot of films that I had absolutely no passion for, like, high school comedies and horror, action, thrillers, kickboxing movies, detective movies, like, crime, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But I tried to make them as good as I could. In every job that came, I felt, okay, it's like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, gave me this gift. So my job is to make this gift into the most beautiful, the most wonderful, the most exciting thing I could even imagine.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that was this sort of, the love of the craft and being in love with yourself. I'm sorry, with your job, not with yourself, but your job as a craftsman who would try to make, the best possible film he could make. But, in the back of my mind, I always felt that I always had a dream to be an auteur,
To be a what? I'm sorry?
Auteur means like, write my own films and or develop films that I really wanted to make, stories I wanted to tell.
Okay.
And I really, honestly, didn't get to do a fraction of them. At the moment, I'm walking around with maybe a suitcase of maybe 50 movies that I've developed, wanted to make, but never got to make.
Really?
So that's sort of it's a sort of frustration or love and hate with the whole film industry.
Wow.
Where you're really making things that you don't want to make, films that you really would love to make, that you dream about every night, that you live in your imagination constantly, you don't get to make.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah. Well, thank you.
whoops. You see, on
Whoops.
that note, we have a
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I really feel like, what you said does inspire those that are out there trying to pursue film. And I really like the fact that you mentioned that anything that you are passionate about, you do your best regardless if it's something you don't want to do of a film. It's just you are passionate about the craft. You want to do well with yourself with the craft. And you still want to just leave your mark of saying, hey, I did well. Regardless if I approved of this film or not, I'm still wanting to do it just because it's what I love doing. So thank you for sharing that. So thank you for sharing too about your dad. That was really cool just to know that your dad's history, what he did, and he won awards for him rebuilding, skyscrapers, rebuilding buildings, things to help the community. So that's awesome.
The Ford Foundation hired him, and for about 8 years we spent building low-cost housing for developing countries. So he developed a miniature system, like literally that you could cast in a backyard of a factory in Calcutta, and all you need is like a couple of cows and a little cart, and you could transport these concrete panels.
Wow.
And by hand you could lift them with a hand crane, and you could erect them in villages. So like he built hundreds and hundreds of little houses for poor people all over India in the rural
awesome.
communities and Nepal, and they were for flood victims and victims of famine and people who were displaced, and I'm sure a lot of his housing now would be very, very attractive, and they would be done on a different level, because now there is materials that are being developed which are sort of like concrete, but they're more synthetic and easier to produce, and they can be like Teslas.
Wow, really?
I mean, it's all prefab, but can be done through AI, designed and put together, and robotically. You could just do incredible things.
That's awesome.
with that type of vision.
Yeah, that's awesome that your dad did that to help poor people, bring homes to them in the community. So that's awesome that your dad has a heart like that to want to help and serve the community. So yeah, thank you for sharing about that. So how did you land the part to direct the film Hangman's Curse? How did you meet Frank Peretti, or how did all that happen?
Right, yeah. Let me just think. How did it happen? I think it was, if I believe, God, I don't remember, but someone introduced me to the producers and they reached out to me. I don't know how it happened, because maybe some of the other movies I had done in the past, or but in any case, they called me up and offered me this film. And I read the script, and I had done a bunch of high school movies, set in high school, so I was very familiar with, American high school. But funnily enough, I never went to American high school. I mean, I did all these like Roger Corman movies, like Screwballs, Loose Screws. They're all set in high school, and they're all about these, kids doing crazy stuff, and I was like the king of the high school comedy in a way, but I never
went there.
So maybe it's better. Like sometimes as an outsider, you see it in a different way. So anyway, I knew the high school world, and what I liked about the script, it was very well constructed. It was actually a very well constructed mystery story. And that's not easy to do. And obviously that comes from the novel. He wrote it almost like a detective novel, where piece by piece, you unravel the mystery of what's going on. And it's like, it's suspense, it's scary, it's horror, and it's charming, because it's about a family with 2 twin kids and a boy and a girl. So there's a lot of fun. The relationships are wonderful between this family, of detective family.
Yeah.
So I really liked the script. I mean, the script was really charming, I mean, I wanted to make more serious films, but here this is given to me. So I said, okay, I'll make the best of it and make the most wonderful film. And the executive producer was an executive of, 20th Century Fox, Ralph Winter.
Oh, wow.
Who produced X-Men, all these huge movies.
Right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
X-Men, yeah. So I thought, okay, this might be an entry to a studio film, which has been my dream, the studio film, the big Marvel movie, whatever.
Yeah.
So I took and we it was set up to film in Spokane, Washington, in a little town, small town. Spokane, not such a small town, but so was I had to work very much within the local film community there. But all the casting was done in Los Angeles, which is really wonderful, because really got to see the best of every actor, and with an amazing casting director. and was about two high school kids. And it's funny, the actor that we chose was the son of the producer who produced like 3 of my crazy movies in Canada.
Oh, is that right?
Screwballs, Recruits.
Oh, wow.
Screwball Hotel and Loose Screws. Those are like crazy Roger Corman movies. And they were like about guys with loose screws in their brains.
Yeah.
Whose all mission was like, to find girls, high school, and everything went wrong. Wow. But anyway, so, So, and then the most wonderful thing was the discovery of Leighton Meester. I remember that moment because there were a lot of teenage girls who came in because it calls for a 16-year-old role. And this girl came in, and Leighton, she was 16, and the casting director says, I think she's gonna pop. This girl is gonna pop. I've been watching her. So fine, I had no expectations, but I was videotaping the audition, and she started playing this role, and my God, she was just incredible. She was so natural and so alive and so deep and so complicated. It was just beautiful. That audition was like, wow, although maybe this is not the movie I want to make, this actress is incredible. I would love to work with this performance. So we cast her immediately. So that was wonderful. And she went on to become a huge star. She was the star of all Gossip Girl.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
She was the star
Wow.
of that whole show, Gossip Girl. She became super famous. It was pretty obvious that was going to happen.
This girl that you're talking about is the main young girl in the film of Hangman's Curse, the young girl?
Yeah, she's really the central character. It's really, she's in the, who sort of drives the whole story.
Yeah.
And, the film was fun because it was about spiders.
Yes.
Tarantulas, spiders. I've never worked with spiders.
Yeah.
And we had a spider wrangler. It was so fascinating. He came with like about 100 of these tarantulas. I didn't know that tarantulas are actually very friendly.
Are they really?
I mean, we had them walking all over us. I don't think they actually get violent till they're attacked.
Oh, wow.
So I had a tarantula walking all over my head, all over my, on my shoulder. The girl, Leighton had tarantulas all over her.
Oh, man.
But what I found was really interesting is that there is 2 types of spiders, and when you put them together, it's like instant war.
Is that right?
They eat each other
wow.
instantly. So the challenge was how to keep these
spiders
away from each other because they would immediately devour each other.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So there was interesting filming with like hundreds of spiders, and then we also ended up using digital spiders as well.
Of course,
we had to embellish.
Yeah.
When we need like 1,000 spiders, we had to
I do remember that.
But
so one of the things that I found interesting of the film is the way that it's a faith-based film, because it's from that author Frank Peretti, which he worked with Ted Dekker, another Christian mystery kind of. I see Ted Dekker kind of like Stephen King, but he's the Christian version of it.
Right.
And his books are really remarkable. But what I liked about this film of Hangman's Curse is that it wasn't just so like, oh, we just want to make this film as Christian as it is and try to keep it like that. It was like you guys were a little bit edgy with the film, where you actually had dark, things in it, where someone was actually hanging from the stage in the beginning. You guys had some kind of like witchcraft what do you call that, paradigm, or
right?
That certain things. There are certain things in it that I was like, that's cool that you guys use that even for a faith-based film. That shows that you guys are trying to be real with it, like not to try to be so overprotective.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the faith aspect of it was very minimal, and we tried to keep it very minimal so you would appeal to a mainstream audience, because I think people are turned off when there's another Christian film. People like or a Christian rock and roll band. They immediately turn off. So it was very minimal, and that's, I think, was really nice that it was in the script. And like, for example, the boyfriend that Leighton ends up with, I think, if I remember, he was not black at all. But we decided to cast him as an African American, which I thought was really cool. That we had this interracial love story going on, and that I fought for that. I really thought that would be really wonderful, and he was such a wonderful actor. And it was so wonderful seeing these two together. Leighton with this very charming African American actor boyfriend, and and there was a lot of nice chemistry between the two twins, the brother and sister. The way they kept on teasing each other, and it was very much like the male-female sort of war between the sexes, but in a very charming, beautiful, subtle way. Yeah. So that was wonderful.
And the one thing too with Frank Peretti, he was the author of Hangman's Curse. He also starred in it as well. He was playing that scientist.
That was interesting. I mean, I forget whose decision that was, but I was frightened of that because I said, "Oh my God, he's gonna kill the film. He's gonna ruin the film." I mean, like the author playing, he's never acted before, and wow, when he had so much energy and so much charm, but he was like a million times over the top. So like my mission was, Frank, can you like cool it down? Like stop acting, just like calm down, Yeah. And I think I calmed him down a little bit, but still. But I loved it, he was very charming. But there were a couple of performances which, when I saw the film just yesterday, I said, because we couldn't afford to bring all the actors from LA. So for the smaller roles, I had to cast from the local Spokane high school kids. And there were a couple of performances where I, oh my God, I wish I had like finessed this performance. And because sometimes, it's the smallest parts which are the most difficult to direct, the smallest actors. And yet those can kill the movie. You have one non-professional actor deliver one line, and suddenly you are like completely thrown out of the. So there were a couple of real cringy moments which I kill myself as a director didn't catch, because I think that's the most important thing, to zero in on the stuff that doesn't work, that you got to fix, and the stuff that works, you just go with it. Also, it was very hot, was super hot, like it was about 120 degrees. And man, like we were shooting those like those football scenes and the outdoor scenes, and we were all like dying. We were like drinking Gatorade and water like every 5 minutes, and people were getting heat strokes, and it was really tough, But because of my experience of having done so many films, I've done 25 films, I knew how to block it and do it in the most efficient way.
Okay.
So my job was on those very complicated scenes with a lot of extras, the football scenes, the crowds, how to film it in the most minimal way to get out of there as quickly as possible and make it look as big, and exciting and like a big Hollywood movie.
Right.
Yeah,
and actually I do remember when I saw that film, I mean, for me, I feel like it was a well-directed film, even if it was low-budgeted. Was it a low-budget film?
Yeah, it was really low budget. And I wasn't responsible for the final effects. And because I don't know, for some reason, they took, in the last stage of, after I delivered the director's cut, they just said, okay, we're going to take care of it now. Ralph, has done X-Men. He works at the top of the top of the top. But when I saw it, when like all these ghost-like effects, I cringed. I thought they were so a little cheesy. I would have done it completely different. I was a little embarrassed, by some of the effects, especially now, because audiences are so sophisticated and are so attuned to very, very like, when you have like ghost-like effects and hallucinations, I think audience expect more. And I was surprised that some of it looked a little cheap and over the top. So it was a little, God, I wish I could just get my hands on the film and redo the special effects and then re-release it, because I think it's a really fun movie.
Yeah, it is.
I was surprised that it's playing for free on YouTube.
Exactly. When
I don't know how
yeah.
copyright laws work.
Yeah,
I mean, do
that's
they
actually...
consider these movies now worthless. If this could rent, like on iTunes or Amazon, people should be paying for it.
Yeah, actually, when I was looking for the film a couple of months ago, I looked it up on Google, and I looked under video, and it did come up on YouTube, and yeah, it was like free. You could watch it on there for the full video. So, but I do agree that it's something that it should be where you pay to see it, because it is a well-budgeted film. It's a good film where I would think, yeah, I would pay to see it. Don't let it just be free.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for everyone that's worked hard to make the film, as well as you directing it.
Especially now, I own the rights to my best movies, that the ones that I feel most proud of and that I own the rights to. Those are, Tiger Within, now called Embracing the Tiger, Age of Kali, Fun, Ginger Ale Afternoon, Hey Babe, and 1001 Nights in Bohemia. Last month, I just released them on Apple, iTunes, for rent, and Amazon Prime and Google Play. Hey, so please rent and watch these 6 movies. You can find them on my website, Filmartmovies, plural.com.
Which was your latest film?
The last film was Tiger Within.
Tiger Within.
Which ironically is a Jewish-themed film with a lot of Christian messages.
Really? Okay.
It's about a Holocaust survivor who's very bitter and angry and doesn't want to... He hates everything and everyone. And he befriends a racist teenager, a girl, who is on the street, who is uneducated and very angry and full of, very sort of like she wears swastikas and all of that. But he takes her in as the daughter that he never had the chance to have. And through each other, they learn about unconditional love, forgiveness, all these beautiful Christian ideas, which are, to me, are not even Christian. They're Buddhist. They're spiritual ideas about loving the other more than one loves oneself, about embracing the other, about uniting. It's like the opposite of what's going in our world now, which seems to be like eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, revenge, retaliation. It's like the opposite of all of that. And yet the film, wasn't released to the mainstream audience, like the Christian audience. It was targeted to a very total different demographic. So now I'm trying to get it out so people around the world and all across the country see it. Because when we were showing it to journalists, I had African Americans coming to me, Christian, the Christian press, and they were saying this movie is like it's like how do you say, beauty from the ashes. It's a film that should be shown to all young people across the United States and the world, especially in these divided times. So I hope the film will get rediscovered. And the other movies, all my 6 movies I feel so proud of. Age of Kali is like a real audacious, scandalous film about decadence, and it's inspired by the Hindu sort of belief that we're living in the age of Kali, which is the age of chaos and destruction and decadence, and this has to all blow up in flames so everything can be reborn and renewed. So it's a very cyclical idea. So Age of Kali. And then I have this beautiful movie called Hey Babe, which is a disco musical.
Hey Babe?
Yeah, very charming, which I hope will get discovered this Christmas. I have a movie called Fun, which is about a true crime story about 2 teenage girls who were abused, and they committed a senseless crime, which is a way of purging all the hell that they went through, based on a true story that happened in California.
Is that right?
Where these 2 14-year-old girls murdered an old lady for the thrill of it. They stabbed her like 1,000 times, and they were very proud of it. It was an exorcism of the abuse that they went through. So it was an interesting film. And then this 1001 Nights in Bohemia, which is a love story set in Eastern Europe, brings back a little bit of my Polish roots. We shot it in Prague. And then there's Ginger Afternoon, very sweet film about a young couple who is expecting the birth of their baby, and it's about the fear that they're going through of a new child being born. And it's a very beautiful film with music by Willie Dixon, a very well-known blues musician who wrote a lot of songs like the Rolling Stones perform. And then I hope I can make another movie. I'm working on several things right now. I mean,
What are you working on right now?
A dream project that I have is a science fiction movie. It's a huge epic science fiction movie, which I've been trying to do for years. And actually, it's sort of a bit of an Adam and Eve story.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah. It's, but I'm gonna try to make it now using artificial intelligence, because it's a gigantic movie. It's like a $250 million movie that with artificial intelligence I hope to make for 1 million, and tell the same story and get the same emotion through, but tell it with the help of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Generative AI.
What's the name of the film again?
It's called Aliens.
Aliens?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about the future when men and women are at war with each other. They've split up.
Wow.
And it's like Romeo and Juliet. A young man meets a young woman. It's the first time they've met.
Yeah,
These two species have met.
Interesting.
And when the whole world blows up, it turns out to be Adam and Eve landing on a new planet to start new.
Start a brand new start, huh?
Yeah.
And what made you want to write that? Or did you write the script to that?
It's a story that we've had. We wrote. It's been a long time. It just came. It was an inspiring idea, and I've always, tried to, peddle it in Hollywood, but to make that type of film is pretty impossible, because that type of budget. It has to be what you call a franchise type movie, and this is not a franchise. I mean, no one gets to make a movie like that unless you are maybe Christopher Nolan. You can make a huge movie that's not a franchise. Very rare. So I hope with AI I can make it now.
Make it, okay.
Yeah. And then I have another dream project which is called Bardo Thodol, which is inspired by the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And in a way, this is not Christian, but it's a Christian idea, in a way. It's actually a Buddhist idea. It's about reincarnation, where the concept is that through our, as we live our lives, every action, every word we speak, and every thought that goes through our mind has consequences and is recorded. So after we die, we face a judgment where we face our entire, everything we've done, everything we've said, and everything we thought.
Wow.
And we become our own judge. And hopefully we decide that we may get another chance to be reborn, so we can undo all the fuck-ups of this life.
Yeah.
So we can have another chance to
reborn and start over.
And
better
ourselves. So in a way, it's an idea which is very similar to Christian ideas. It's about
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So you have about 3 or 4 projects in mind for the future that you wanted to direct already?
Much, yeah. Before time runs out.
Right, before time's up. Do you have any studios looking at your script right now? Do you have any producers?
No, this is the problem. I'm a total outsider, and I don't want to be an outsider, but for some reason I've become an outsider. Hollywood it's a bit of a closed system, but it's also a ageist. If you, by the age of 40, don't have an Academy Award, you are eventually sort of like, set aside, and the new generation is given the chance. So it's very difficult for someone once you get a certain age to even make a movie in Hollywood.
Wow.
Unless you have some kind of your own source of financing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really hope that one producer or a studio, even if it's just Netflix or I mean, I believe that certain Netflix and other studios that are like Searchlight, Lionsgate, they're willing to give people sometimes a chance at some films.
I think I wake up and every day I think, but it's a the way to enter that is very difficult. You got to have an agent at one of the top agencies who will open the door and get you a meeting. I mean, without a powerful agent, I mean, those people don't want to talk to you. You can't just email them or phone them. They will just ignore you. But the agencies are also like a closed system. So if it's like you got to break into the agency, get have CAA or ICM or whatever endeavor. If you don't, then you don't get to talk to Netflix or Apple or Amazon or any of those guys. So it's like a series of gates that you have to go through, and sometimes it's just impossible.
Okay.
It's like, imagine in the 500 years ago there was the castle and the royalty, and you were a peasant. How can a peasant ever be allowed into the castle?
True. I mean, that's true. Yeah, you can.
It's just impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you are maybe an amazing general like Napoleon, or you get discovered, or a gladiator that's so incredible that the emperor might want to hire you as his general.
Right.
Very rare.
Well, I hope that I believe that nothing's impossible. I believe if it's meant for it to all work out, sometimes when we just sometimes let things be and just we trust to take action, which I know you do, that God, for you, God or universe, it just works out. You're just like, man, if I didn't have taken that chance, if I didn't give up, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And you have not given up because you went through MIT, that's an incredible school. You followed your passion. Not everyone makes it to universities to do that, and you did, especially a very prestige school as MIT. So that's a lot for you, going for you. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, not anyone can just walk up and be like, hey, I have this film, here's my script, and then, it just changes.
Right.
But I know that,
It's funny, but Hollywood doesn't really care about that. I mean, it's funny, like, I never would even mention that I went to MIT at any of my interviews because it's not important for them. They live by other rules. Maybe now, because of technology, suddenly the MIT has become more important. Now people listen, oh, you went to MIT. But like literally when I was doing all those films 10, 20, 30 years ago, I mean, I even didn't want to mention MIT. I thought it would be like the kiss of death in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
Really, it was really like...
Well, actually, saying that you're from MIT now, I think that's very impressive. Where this generation will look at that as really and because I mean, there are people out there that say, "Oh, I went to Harvard, I went to this school, this university," and they don't just look over it. They're like, "Really, you went there?" Like as of now, I mean, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it was just because of that. That essay I wrote, I mean, they just, I don't know, got them hooked somehow.
Oh, okay.
It was just probably so out of left field that the future of art was in technology. They loved it. They thought I was some kind of a visionary guru.
Yeah, visionary.
Yeah.
Well, before we end this interview, I do want to say thank you for your time, Rafael, for coming. And we are in Los Angeles right now interviewing this, so this is really a treat to be here. But yes, I do want to give a special release for Thursday for Hangman's Curse.
I just wanted to say one
thing. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
We're sitting on this little curb here, and above us is a house. And it's the house where Jim Morrison lived.
Jim Morrison?
Yes.
Oh,
right
really?
Yeah. Because this is we're in Laurel Canyon, which is like the famous rock and roll canyon with a lot of history here.
Is that
Johnny
right?
Mitchell, every band has lived in this canyon.
Wow, no way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. See, I have never been in this area, so this is new to me. But that's really cool. Jim Morrison. John Morrison.
The
sorry.
Doors.
Yeah, the Doors. Yeah, that's really. He lived right up here. Oh wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. But yeah, I'm so thankful that I reached out to Rafael and that he gave me this opportunity to interview him about the Hangman's Curse. So it's just been a blessing to be here and meet, well, just, someone who's passionate like I am about film and has a story. You have a story, and you've done 25 films, 6 that you're very proud of, and I think that's incredible. I wish I could do at least 2-3 films. But yeah, so thank you again, Rafael, for sharing your story behind your dad, your family, everything that you shared on just your journey from where you went from traveling around the world. And it's just incredible. That's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And we look forward to your other films that are coming out.
And I hope this will inspire all the young, amazing filmmakers and talent out there, because there's incredible talent. I go around film schools, I teach, and I see there's so much talent that never gets a chance.
Wow.
And I think, for every successful person in Hollywood, there's probably 100 just as talented that unfortunately are not doing that those few lucky bastards, I would say, have the chance to do.
No, I agree. And that's the thing, guys. Sometimes you do have to take those risks, get out and just try it and have faith, because faith without works, you don't see results. And it's okay to fail, because if you fail, you learned from the experience, you get back up and you try something else. If you don't ever try, you'll never know what's on the other side. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Rafael, again for having me meet you here in Los Angeles, California. Really appreciate it. And this Thursday, I'm going to send a link on Halloween to watch the Hangman's Curse, directed by Rafael. It's a special treat. I love it. It's a really good film, written by Frank Peretti, the author of Hangman's Curse. So yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Just one quick story about Frank. Frank has a little plane. He flies. And as a treat, after we finished the movie, I said, Frank, I want to go flying with you. So me and my assistant director and Frank, we went up, and then we flew away into the mountains of Montana, above peaks. And then I said, Frank, can I fly a little bit? He gave me the controls, and I started swooping here and there, and I got lower and lower. And I wanted to fly just 20 feet above the mountain peak. And suddenly there was a gigantic gust of wind. And we got pulled. Frank grabbed the controls, and man, I almost crashed the plane.
Man.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was so exciting.
Man. I bet that gave you adrenaline.
I almost, killed Frank and crashed the plane.
And killed probably everyone including yourself.
Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't. Thank God you're still here. Yeah. That means you still have a plan.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, this is Joshua Jacob, Rhythm and Roads podcast. Thank you, Rafal Zielinski, Canadian film director. Thank you, sir, for meeting me in Los Angeles and for us to do this interview.